Hello, Franklin friends. It's Miss Butler, and I'm here today for us to learn about our shared reading lesson for the day. We have been reading all week long a book. Do you remember the name? Yes, it's called Dennis Rides His Bike. And earlier in the week, we spent some time thinking about the words in that book, words that ended in the letters E-D to show they happened in the past. We also made some inferences. That's when we use our thinking plus the words in the book to understand something that the author doesn't say directly. So today, we're going to be learning something new. So make sure that you have your learning stuffy with you. I have mine. If you don't have one, go get it. Or you can use an invisible stuffy if you want to, because we're going to be teaching our stuffies today about the author's message. The author's message is something that the author wants you to know or do or learn. But first, wait a minute. I hear a sound. Let me see, where's that coming from? Oh dear, I'll be right back. Look what it was. My cell phone. My cell phone was beeping. Ah, it's because I have a message, a text message that someone sent me because there's something they want me to know. But text messages aren't the only way we can get messages. Can you think of another one? How else could you let someone know some important information? What about a letter? You could send a letter to let somebody know something. If you need a message, you might get that message in a letter. You also might get, oh look, it's a little sticky note. You might get a little note to tell you something that someone needs you to know or do or learn. Those are all great ways of getting messages. But the author has a message for you too. You're not going to get it on a text and you're not going to get a sticky note about it. You have to figure out the author's message yourself, using your mind to help you know what is it the author wants us to do or know or learn. That's so important. So let's tell your stuffy that. So your stuffy knows what we're using today's lesson for. I'm going to tell my stuffy. Today we are learning about author's message. You tell yours. Did you do it? Now you and your stuffy are ready to find out all about the author's message. I want to know what message is in this letter. What would I have to do first? Read it. Yes, of course. I would never know the message if I didn't read it. And if I read it yesterday or 2 days ago, I might need to stop and spend some time thinking, what was that again? And that's what we're going to do too. Before we even begin to use our brains to think about the message, we have to remember the story. We know that we can retell a story on our hand. Hold your hand up. We tell the beginning, all the parts in the middle, and then the end. I'm even going to hold my stuffy's hand up. Beginning, middle, and end. We're going to do that together right now with the book Dennis Rides His Bike. So I hope you remembered it. It was a very interesting and fun story. So get your stuffy ready because your stuffy is maybe going to be able to help you with this. I took the parts of the book and I put them on cards. But just for fun, I'm mixing these cards all up. We are going to have to figure out what came first what came next, all the way through to the end. So let's look at the cards and think about the story. Then you can help me decide where they go. This one says, Dennis wants to ride without the little wheels on his bike. That was an important part of the book. Dennis rides on and on. Oh, I skipped some words. Dennis rides his bike on and on. Sophie asks Dennis to ride his bike to the park. Oh dear, I remember this part. Dennis falls down, but he tries again and again. Elzér takes the little wheels off the bike and helps Dennis to ride. What a good brother he is. Dennis wants to play ball with his brother Elzér. Dennis rides his bike with Sophie. And now we're back to the beginning again, or the first card. So this is not the order the story went in. And it would be very hard to know the message if we didn't have this story in order, because it doesn't make that much sense. So get your stuffy. See if you can tell your stuffy the very first thing that happened in this book. What happened at the beginning? Did you tell your stuffy? My stuffy told me that he remembers that at the beginning of the book, Sophie asked Dennis if he wanted to ride his bike to the park. So I'm going to find that card. Sophie asks Dennis to ride his bike to the park. That was the beginning. But what happened next? Do you remember? Does Dennis say, yeah, let's go? Or does something else happen? Tell your stuffy, what happens after Sophie asks? My stuffy knows. Were you thinking that Dennis says no, he wants to play ball with his brother? That's what I was remembering. So let's find that card. Yep, Dennis wants to play ball with his brother Elzér. All right, now we need to figure out what happens when they're playing ball. Uh-oh, something important. Whisper it to your stuffy. Dennis tells his brother, hey, I actually do want to ride my bike, but not with those little wheels on it. Dennis wants to ride his bike without the little wheels. He wants to ride without the little wheels on his bike. Remember, we call those little wheels sometimes training wheels. So that is a problem. What is Dennis going to do about that? Do you remember what he does? Let your stuffy know what happens after he tells his brother. Yeah, give yourself 2 thumbs up if you were thinking that after Dennis tells his brother takes the little wheels off the bike and helps Dennis to ride. What a super nice brother. So now the wheels are off Dennis's bike. What does he do? That's right. Whisper to your stuffy. Yes. Were you thinking that Dennis falls down, but he tries again and again? He really sticks to it. He falls down, but he keeps trying. Oh my, Dennis is falling again and again. What happens after that? Is that the end of the book? I hope not. Do you know what he does? Tell your stuffy. Yeah, he rides his bike on and on. After all that practicing, he finally gets it. And now we're left with the very end of the story. Oh, I'm not going to show you. Do you remember how the book ends? It started with Sophie asking Dennis to ride his bike, but he said no. What happens at the end? Oh, my Stuffy totally knows. Yes, pat yourself on the back if you were remembering that at the end, Dennis rides his bike with Sophie. They go to the park. What an awesome job you did retelling the story. The beginning, all the things in the middle, and the end. That means that we are ready to think about the author's message. This is what happened in the book, but what does the author want us to know about this, or learn, or do? Author's message. The author's message is what the author wants you to know or do or learn. That is really important. So let's teach that to our stuffies. We'll tell them the author's message is what the author wants you to know or do or learn. I'm going to tell my stuffy, you tell yours. The author's message is what the author wants you to know or do or learn. My Stuffy is super interested now in figuring out how are we going to decide what that message is. The author does not send us a letter that says, here's my message. We have to figure that out for ourselves by asking ourselves questions about the story. So let's look and see what kinds of questions we need to ask ourselves. Number one, hold up one finger. Number one, what is the problem? What is the problem in the book? Let's stop and think about that. Get your stuffy out and see if you can tell your stuffy a problem that one of the characters, in this book, there's 3 kids are the characters. What problems are there? Let's see. Yeah. My stuffy has an idea. My bear is thinking about a problem. I wonder if it's the same one you were thinking of. He thinks one of the problems is that Dennis did not want to ride his bike with the little wheels. That's not the only problem in this book, but that's one problem. And let's see what happens if we use that as our problem. So, Dennis does not want to ride his bike with the little wheels. Now we need to ask ourselves the second question. So hold up 2 fingers. Question 2. What does the character do or learn about the problem? So what does Dennis do or learn about not wanting to ride his bike with those little wheels? What does he do about it? Can you think of it? Tell your stuffy, what does Dennis do? You can even look, this is why we retell the story, right? So that we can remember what happens next when he doesn't want the little wheels on his bike. Remember? That's right. Pat yourself on the back if you are remembering that Dennis asks his brother for help. He has this awesome brother who's a great helper. So Dennis's problem, he fixes it by asking his brother and telling his brother about the problem. He shares his problem with his brother so that his brother can help him. And his brother does. Remember, he takes the little wheels right off. So now that we have the problem and we know what Dennis does about it, let's think of the last question. So number 3, hold up 3 fingers. We're thinking about what Dennis does. How would the author want us to handle that problem? What does the author want you to do or learn? If Dennis solved his problem by asking for help, what might the author be telling us to do about solving our problem? your stuffy. Oh, yeah. My stuffy told me he thinks the one message the author has might be, you can ask for help when you have a problem. So let's take a look at this sentence strip. Using this sentence strip can help us to take our thinking about the author's message and put our words down in a way that's easy for other people to understand. This sentence strip says, oh, it's upside down. Oh my, I should look more carefully. I think the author's message is, and there's a space for your thinking, because, and then there's a space for the reason. So let's read this again together because you're going to use this sentence strip to talk to your stuffy and tell them the author's message. I think the author's message is because, and then you can fill that in. So stop and think to yourself, what did the author want you to learn? What did Dennis do or learn? What might the author want you to do or learn? Get your stuffy. Let them know. That's right. So I'm going to fill in the sentence strip and say, I think the author's message is, you should ask for help because Dennis gets help from his brother to fix his problem. And I can too. All right. Author's message is something that you really have to use your thinking for. Because we're using our own thinking, we might not all have the same ideas. You might find a different message in the book. You might see a different problem that the characters had. Maybe you noticed there was a problem in the book of falling down, riding a bike. That happened a lot. Well, how did that problem get fixed? What might be the message there? You can use your own mind to think about the story, the problems, and how the characters respond to their problems to help you figure out a message in the book. When you do, remember to use this sentence strip. This is a good way to put your ideas down. I think the author's message is because. Knowing the author's message makes the book much more fun to read, and it really helps you understand all the things that the author is telling us, all the important things that are in the book. I want you, when you are reading, to remember to use these steps to do your thinking about the author's message. And today, during Literacy Centers or Literacy Time, you're going to have a chance to fill in a sheet about the book, Dennis Rides His Bike, and your thoughts on what the author, Lorraine Adams' message might be. What does she want you to know or do or learn? You're going to make a picture and then fill in that sentence starter that's at the bottom. I think the author's message is, I already wrote that part for you. Write what you think the message is, because, and then give your reasons from the book. You did some great work today, and I can't wait to read all your ideas and to see what you are thinking about that book. I'll talk to you soon.